Welcome to Xiao Universe. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share this video with your friends. The hum of the gala was a dull thrum in Wang Yibo's ears, a familiar backdrop of polite chatter and clinking champagne glasses. He stood by a window, aloof, a picture of effortless cool, occasionally nodding to a passing acquaintance. It was just another night, another appearance. Then, his phone vibrated. A simple message from Zhan. Did you like it? Wear it tonight. A slow, private smile touched Yibo's lips, a subtle shift in his aura that only those who knew him intimately might catch. He reached into the inner pocket of his tailored jacket. The air in the opulent ballroom thickened, not with heat, but with a peculiar stillness. It started subtly, the chatter seemed to fade, the clinks of crystal softened to a distant chime. Yibo's fingers closed around a sleek, velvet box. As he drew it out, a ripple went through the room, though no one could pinpoint its source. A few heads turned, drawn by an invisible current. He opened the box. It wasn't just a watch. The moment the light of the ballroom hit its surface, the world buckled. The platinum gleam didn't reflect, it absorbed, then re-emitted light in impossible ways. Colors, usually bound by the spectrum, bled and shimmered, forming ephemeral rainbows that danced on the walls, spiraling around the ornate chandeliers. A woman across the room, mid-sentence, gasped, convinced for a split second that the diamonds on her necklace had dissolved into liquid starlight. A man raised his hand to shield his eyes, not from glare, but from the sudden, overwhelming sensation that the very air was composed of shimmering, sentient particles. Yibo tilted the watch slightly, and the phenomenon intensified. The hands, instead of simply ticking, seemed to drag time itself, leaving faint, luminous trails in their wake. For an instant, everyone in the ballroom felt a profound, almost dizzying awareness of the present moment, stretched and distilled. The clinking glasses seemed to echo in slow motion, the distant music reverberated with a crystal clarity that revealed every individual note, every resonant frequency. A collective sigh, silent and involuntary, swept through the crowd, a release of tension they hadn't known they were holding. It was as if their own heartbeats had synced, not to each other, but to the ethereal pulse emanating from the watch. He fastened it around his wrist. The cold metal against his skin sent a jolt, not of electricity, but of pure, concentrated presence. The subtle hum, which had previously been almost imperceptible, now resonated with an undeniable, profound harmony. It wasn't loud, it was everywhere. It threaded through the ambient noise of the gala, weaving the fragmented sounds, the distant laughter, the murmur of conversations, the soft rustle of silk, into a single, cohesive, breathtaking symphony. Each note played by the live orchestra seemed to bloom into a full, immersive soundscape, wrapping around the listeners, drawing them into its core. People instinctively closed their eyes, overcome by the sheer, unadulterated beauty of the sound, feeling it not just in their ears, but vibrating through their very bones. An elderly woman, known for her sharp wit and cynical demeanor, felt tears sting her eyes as the harmony washed over her. She saw, in the mind's eye, a vibrant meadow from her childhood, bathed in sunlight, the memory so vivid it felt more real than the present moment. A young, ambitious businessman, always focused on the next deal, suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of calm, a clarity that dissolved his anxieties, leaving him with an unshakable sense of peace. The watch didn't just play music, it harmonized with the deepest parts of their souls, drawing out forgotten joys and settling restless minds. Then, as Yibo subtly adjusted his cuff, the final, most mind-blowing scene unfolded. The watch face, a deep, enigmatic obsidian, didn't just display numbers. For a fleeting, ethereal instant, it pulsed with a soft, inner light, and within its depths, reflections appeared. Not reflections of the ballroom, but of moments. Glimpses. A shared glance between Yibo and Zhan from across a crowded room, laden with unspoken understanding. A flash of them laughing, their heads thrown back, under a sky full of stars. The quiet comfort of hands brushing, a silent promise exchanged. These weren't just images. They were impressions of pure, unadulterated connection, so potent and real that they bypassed the eyes and went straight to the heart. The observers, caught in the watch's mesmerizing field, didn't just see these flashes. They felt the warmth, the profound affection, the absolute trust radiating from them. It was as if the watch was not merely a timepiece, but a conduit to the most precious, intangible moments of a soul's journey. Everyone in the ballroom felt an inexplicable rush of empathy, a surge of shared humanity. Barriers seemed to melt, animosity softened, and for a few breathtaking seconds, the entire room was bathed in a singular, unifying feeling of profound, interconnected wonder. A sense of all is well, deep and true, resonated through them. As quickly as it began, the phenomenon subsided. The colors snapped back to normal, the sounds resolved into their ordinary cacophony, the temporal distortions vanished. The watch on Yibo's wrist was just a watch, elegant, expensive, but seemingly inert. The people in the ballroom blinked, shaking their heads slightly, a faint, lingering echo of awe in their eyes. They looked at each other, a shared, confused wonder on their faces. Had they imagined it? Had the champagne gone to their heads? They couldn't quite grasp what had just happened, but they knew, deep down, that something extraordinary had taken place. Yibo, however, simply smiled. A real, genuine smile that reached his eyes, a flicker of private amusement and profound contentment. He understood. It wasn't just an expensive gift. It was a piece of Zhan's light, a captured fragment of their shared magic, a silent declaration that even in the most mundane of settings, their connection could bend reality itself. He looked out at the subtly altered faces in the ballroom, the faint blush of wonder still clinging to them, and knew that some gifts transcended price tags, leaving an impression far deeper than any material possession ever could. Stay tuned to Yibo Zhan Universe for updates, exclusive breakdowns, and emotional reactions as the story unfolds. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because this miracle might just be real. The gala's awestruck murmurs faded behind him as Wang Yibo stepped into the cool night air. The watch, a quiet, brilliant weight on his wrist, felt less like an accessory and more like a humming secret. Its power, which had momentarily bent reality for an entire room, now seemed contained, a silent force waiting to be engaged. The real purpose of the gift, he knew, was not for a public spectacle, but for a private, profound connection. As his car pulled away, the cityscape, once a blur of ordinary lights, began to feel different. The watch hummed, a low, resonant frequency that vibrated through the steering wheel. Yibo focused on it, on the intricate obsidian face that held impossible depths. He wasn't trying to manipulate it, he was simply letting its power guide him. The city lights outside the window began to waver, bleeding into a shimmering, holographic display. The buildings twisted, not in a destructive way, but as if their forms were being overwritten. He felt a pull, a powerful current of memory and longing, and the car was no longer driving on a modern highway. It was coasting down a dirt road, flanked by fields of swaying green wheat. The air, which had been thick with exhaust, now carried the clean, earthy scent of the countryside. He looked down at his clothes. The suit was gone, replaced by a simple, casual jacket. The mind-bending effect was complete. This wasn't a memory he was recalling. He was re-experiencing it. The watch was a temporal compass, allowing him to walk into a captured moment. He saw his younger self in the passenger seat, and beside him, Xiao Zhan, laughing as he pointed out a distant kite. Yibo couldn't interact with the memory selves, but he was a silent observer, a ghost in a moment he had lived before. He could feel the sun on his face, hear the perfect clarity of Zhan's laughter, and experience the quiet contentment he had felt then. The watch was a key, a profound tool for unlocking the past, but with all its sensory details intact. It was an overwhelming, beautiful, and deeply personal mind-bending scene. Later, back in his apartment, the watch's power escalated. The air around him grew heavy with a sensation of dual existence. He was in his sleek, modern living room, but the faint, floral scent of a tea shop was also present. He saw the corner of a polished wooden table and the blurry outline of a teacup sitting on a bamboo mat, superimposed over his own marble countertop. He reached out his hand, and the table's edge felt solid, real, even though it was a phantom. The watch wasn't just showing him a memory, it was creating a shared psychic space. He was connected to Xiao Zhan, who was in a quiet tea house across the city. He spoke, his voice sounding oddly resonant in the interwoven space. "Are you there?" A voice, clear and warm, replied from the ethereal tea room that only he could see. "I am." The watch. It works both ways. It's not just a gift to you. The walls of Yibo's apartment now showed faint, shimmering sketches of Zhan's own art, blending with his own minimal decor. It was a merging of their worlds, a visual representation of their shared consciousness, and the effect was breathtakingly surreal. Objects from both their realities were blending in impossible ways, a testament to the watch's ability to transcend physical distance. The final and most powerful mind-bending scene unfolded when Zhan's projected image in the shared space wavered, and his voice took on a strained, weary tone. "It's been a long day. So much pressure." Yibo felt a pang of concern. The watch, a gift of love, had a more intimate purpose than he had first realized. It wasn't just a communication device, it was a tool for emotional connection and support. He concentrated, focusing all his will and affection on the watch on his wrist. The intricate obsidian face flared, and his own presence, in the shared space, became more solid, more real. He wasn't just a ghost now, he was a projected image of strength and comfort. He reached out his hand, and though he was miles away, Zhan saw his semi-translucent figure extend a hand, not to touch, but to offer a quiet reassurance. He didn't speak. He simply existed there, a silent, comforting force in the ethereal space they had created. The effect was immediate. Zhan's strained expression softened. He smiled, a genuine, relieved look spreading across his face as he felt the surge of support from across the city, an intimate presence that was both real and yet impossible. The connection faded as Zhan's own presence in the tea room became more substantial, more real. He was grounded again. Yibo was left in his own apartment, the watch on his wrist now quiet, a simple, beautiful piece of metal and glass. He sent a text. "Got your message. And the gift. Thank you. It's beautiful." He didn't need to explain what had happened, or how his world had bent and shifted. The watch was their secret, a mind-bending tool for a bond that had long since transcended the mundane. The true value was not in its cost, but in the power it held to make two separate realities, and two hearts one.